Hi, everyone. I'm Alex, and I'm doing my third year here in Queens. So I've been here for 3 years already, and I'm in my undergraduate and coming to an end of this amazing journey. So yeah, first of all, architecture at Queens. There's a so most of the time in your degree, you're going to be in the studio. This is where all your classmates will be together working on projects and doing a lot of making amazing models and like discussing with each other for group presentations and doing projects together. And Queens has a lot of um, amazing facilities as well. There's like a workshop for you to have all the tools for you to make amazing models and like printers and stuff like that for you to, and it's all available for you guys. So a big part of architecture that I think is very unique compared to other courses is that the way we're learning is very unique, and we've developed a lot of skills as well in the process. And it's not just reading from a book, and it's not very textbook based. So what I mean by this is a lot of the times you will be asked to do presentations, and external reviewers and your lecturers will give you feedback about your project. So you're learning how to speak in public, you're learning how to sell your idea, and you're learning how to be a creative individual all together at once. So the pictures that I'm about to show are just a few of like presentation of group work and like my own personal projects and me presenting them at that time. So, and studio culture is very important in architecture. You get to learn a lot from people all around the world, and you get to learn a lot of skill sets from other people and pick up a lot of knowledge from different peoples. And together in the studio, you can work on projects together. And really, it's a really fun place, and you'll be spending the most of your time in the studio. So, okay, next. So one thing good about architecture as well that is you get to go to a lot of trips throughout your period here in undergraduate or in masters. So for our year specifically, last year we went to Amsterdam and we got to see a lot of amazing buildings and learned so much about the city planning and a lot of the architecture over there. And when I was in second year, we had the opportunity to go to Barcelona and see a lot of historical buildings and learn so much about the different cultures in these different places. And architecture is very, very broad, and there's a lot of things to learn. And the more you travel and the more you learn about different cultures, you're exposed more to the world outside, and it helps you broaden your knowledge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to briefly skim through on the surface a few projects that I've done over the year, and just pretty simple, and give you guys a rough idea of maybe what's like what studying architecture is, and just yep. So this project is done recently. It's about having a respite center in Portrush, which is located in Northern Ireland. And I'm just going to show you maybe like how I arrived at the design process and how, everyone's different, but just maybe have an insight of what's it like and the process of designing. So on the left side is a map of Portrush, and I personally was amazed by the landscape over there and its amazing natural features of the geology and the landscape and the biodiversity in the area. And what I noticed is around the area there's a number of kelp and seaweed beds, and I thought it was interesting, and maybe I could design a building that take something from the landscape and also give back something to it, and maybe not have so much negative impact to the environment, a building that's constantly living and adapting. And these, and like I said, a big part of architecture is you'll be making a lot of models, and this one is just something that uh, a site response and something very initial, just a concept of how the building will go. and a study of precedents, which a lot of projects have already existed, and I'm trying to take inspiration from something. In architecture as well, you'll be drawing a lot, whether with the hand or the computer. And for me personally, I always start sketching just to get the brain juices flowing and just trying to get into the flow of what I want the building to be and exploring different options. And everyone works differently. So, but for me, I always start off very direct with the hand and the paper, and I just explore at how I want the design to be. And you'll be drawing a lot of drawings like sections, floor plans, elevations as well, and just seeing how the spaces relate to one another in your building and exploring different possibilities of spatial arrangements. So what I designed for this project is in relation to the tidal level of Portrush. So just to very briefly go through, at the bottom level is where there'll be a seaweed or kelp farm. It's where people can learn about the process of seaweed farming and be used as, and the seaweed can be used as a seaweed for the seaweed baths, which is a program in my building. And at the lower level, as the tidal goes up, the seaweed will all be in the water and it'll be fermented over there. And these are just some of my final presentation, like drawings or like illustrations, just to show like the building from a different view. And everyone, and the thing about architecture is everyone has unique ways of showing their drawings. So it can be renders, it can be hand drawings, it can be photographs of your models, or it can even just be like everyone has different styles of their drawings and illustrations. So it's something that you will discover along the way as you study architecture. And these are just some of the spaces in my building. That's a bathhouse and a spa area. And on the right, that's just like an axonometric of the spaces. And more pictures about the places in the building. And the kelp farm is, as the tidal goes up, it'll just be underwater. So this is another project. And as architects, we need to be aware of the climate change, and I think we have to be quite responsible in trying to reduce as much pollution as possible. And this project is trying to reuse and adapt towards an existing building and trying to refurbish it. So trying to minimize as much demolition works as possible and conserving the history of the current building. So these are just a lot of models that are quite concept-based. And from there, you explore different lighting conditions and how the spaces work. And yeah. Okay. So for this building, I wanted to really focus on the different lighting conditions. And so the best way I figured out is to make a model and from there slowly orientate the light towards different parts of the room and seeing how it will work in different spaces. So making a model is something that is very important in your architecture degree. And don't worry, when I started off, I didn't really have much experience making models, but as time goes by, you kind of pick it up and you learn using different materials and using the machines to cut your models, or you get really crafty at using your hands to make things very elegant. And you learn from that as well, so don't worry. But it's just a kind of a view of the overall parts of the building. And I won't go into detail, but like I said in the previous project, for me, every project that I take, I try to explore different ways of presenting the project. So there's different styles. Like the one previously is quite like sketchy, and then this one is a little more black and white and showing just the spaces in overall. So the more you explore with different graphics, then you find something that you kind of like, or you can be like me. I don't really have a specific style that I like, but it's just something that I enjoy exploring and seeing which suits for certain products. So a big part of architecture as well, you'll be trying to make your building as energy efficient as possible, and it's something really interesting. And you learn a lot about that in technology and environment, and seeing how you can just be responsible towards the environment, and seeing how ventilation, sunlight orientation, and how people communicate in spaces. Is it effective if I put it this way? Is it effective if I plan the building this way? And things like that. So it's interesting. And it's not just as simple as like, I want it to be as artsy as possible and look good. A lot of the spaces function well together, and you're going to learn how to make spaces um, connect with each other and being as energy efficient as possible in your building. And these are just a few models, photos that I've made about the spaces and the overall building. And as I said, I wanted to explore different lighting conditions in the building and using the existing brickwork and the frame and just showing how the spaces are with the natural lighting. So these are things that, well, different people have different things in their project that they want to explore. So this is just what I've done. Okay, this is something that I've done um, last year. Just a small competition outside of university. So in architecture, one of the best things that that about this course or architecture is that there's a lot of things outside that you can just, if you look for it, you can find it. So there's a lot of workshops, there's a lot of lectures that you can access online or even just go to. And all these can really broaden your experience and you can learn a lot. And one of the ways that I personally engage myself with to learn a lot is by joining competitions. So when you join a competition, you take on a project with your friends or you can just do it yourself. And then it helps you learn a lot about time management and even explore different objects as well. Because when you're in university, the amount of projects you can do is only this number. And if you really want to expand your horizon, you can always attend a lot of external events and even join competitions just to um, broaden your knowledge. So this was something close to home. I'm from Malaysia, by the way, and in Malaysia we have we have a lot of local natives that we call Orang Asli, and they all live in the forest. And this project was just aiming to um, see if there's a possibility of homogenizing the urban and the rural scenarios so that Orang Asli could live together. And it was a housing competition, so I was just exploring the possibilities of simple construction for the Orang Asli and what are the possibilities of them living in the city with us and what can they contribute back and we can give to them. So this was kind of just the proposed scenario of what could happen, and these small module units can be placed around the city in Kuala Lumpur, and the Orang Asli can give back a lot of vegetation to the city and reduce pollution. And at the same time, the Orang Asli are very handy in a lot of crafting works and farming and things like that. So seeing how they can give back to the city and how the city can incorporate living together with them. And in architecture, you'll be also learning a lot about the technical side of it and about materials and assembly units and how things work. And you learn that a lot in your technology and environment modules. So you will be involved in a lot of construction process and you will learn along the way. And during summertime, if you're up for it, you can always look for an internship like what I did, and you can learn a lot and you'll be able to visit construction sites. And then you can learn a lot from the contractors and you can learn a lot from people working in the field. And then these are just some floor plans and housing modules that different arrangements can be made into how incorporating the living. Sweet. So that's kind of the end of my presentation. Overall, I would just say architecture is a very, very unique profession. and a unique degree, and you can explore so many things in it. And you will be working a lot, and you'll be working very hard, but it's all worth it in the end, and it's something very interesting. So I'm gonna pass the time now to my classmate. So it's Charlotte, and she's really, really talented. So a lot of the drawings you're about to see is definitely something you're gonna be looking forward and something you should definitely set your standard to. So yeah, right, take it away, Charlotte.
Hi everyone, so my name is Charlotte, and I'm in the same class as Alex at university. I'm originally from mainland UK, and I moved to Belfast to begin my studies as a Part 1 architect. So I'm going to show you some slides of the work that I've done throughout all 3 years of the course, and also give you an idea of my take on studio life, social events, and societies that I got involved in. So I hope that's useful. In our first year, we were taught all the basic orthographic drawings, such as plans, sections, elevations, and we learned this all through hand drawing, which is a really useful skill to have. So we worked on several small projects, exploring loads of different techniques by hand. This is a housing project we worked on in second year. And at this stage, we started to learn to use AutoCAD, which is one of the most essential programs for architects. And a lot of us got together and began teaching ourselves the program ahead of time so that we were competent when it came to use it in the rest of the course. And we also started to use Photoshop to add textures, material finish, shading, and atmosphere to our drawings. This is a small-scale case study of an apartment, a single-occupant apartment, and it's drawn as an axonometric and then photoshopped below. This is also an axonometric, but it shows the structure of the building, and these would be some key drawings that you would do in your technology modules. And then moving into third year, we started to get a lot more experimental in our approach to design. So this is an abstract collage of some ideas for reading rooms within a library. And this project was really interesting because we had to use an existing building, which is really challenging, but also a very important part of architecture and sustainable design, so that we don't just resort to demolishing things and starting again all the time, but making the most of what's already there. So that was a great project to work on. This is one of our group models. This is always a really fun part of studio where we get into groups and we make these huge, amazing site models that we can then use for our own designs. They're hard work and very time consuming, but satisfying when they're completed. And this is another example of a group model. In second and third year, we start to learn about detailing and sustainable design in construction. So this is one of the details I've been working on recently, and it uses concrete, round earth, and timber. And we also develop sustainable design strategies for our projects. So for this one, I was looking at rainwater retention, harvesting, and reuse, and then we have to communicate that through our drawings and diagrams. And finally, we're constantly developing our image-making skills to communicate the essence and atmosphere of our projects. So for this image, I used an elevation and then photoshopped in all the materials and the textures to create an atmosphere that best represented Newcastle in County Down, which is where this project is situated. So reviews, these will happen very regularly throughout your degree, and it involves standing up in front of your peers and your tutors and presenting your designs to the room. And at first, this will be quite intimidating, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And also everyone is always so supportive and encouraging, and it's really inspiring to see how passionate people are about their ideas. So this was always my favorite part of the course. Studio life, as Alex said, architecture is really coursework heavy. So be prepared to work hard. And a lot of the time the studio looks like this, very focused and quiet. And it also gets quite messy and creative like an art studio. And sometimes, well, most of the time, we're all goofing around, having a laugh, and just bouncing and testing ideas off each other. So it's an invaluable luxury to have the studio space. And as Nuala said, Queen's is one of the only universities to offer studio and a desk for every student. And it creates an environment where we all become really, really close friends. And I can definitely say I've made some friends for life here. So aside from hard work and messing around, there's also a bit of this, which usually happens after a review when people have not slept much the night before. And then at the end of the year, we all come together to hand in our portfolios, which is a really nice send-off before the summer. Every year we also do study trips. So in our first year, we went to Derry, Londonderry, and we collaborated with the master students on a project there. In the second year, we went to Barcelona, which was fabulous, and we all got tan. And it's an incredible city for architecture, and we were very lucky that our tutors managed to get us there. And then third year, we went to Amsterdam, which was another amazing trip, all organised again by our tutors. And they arrange a schedule to see some of the most influential and cutting-edge buildings in the city. So we would all meet up in the morning, and we'd walk around the city during the day together. We would sketch and take photographs, discuss the buildings. And then in the evenings, we could go off for dinner, drinks, and a bit of partying. So back at uni, we have the Architecture Society, and they're a group of third years who organise all the social events, such as the formal every year, the icebreakers for freshers, Halloween, Christmas, quiz nights, any opportunity to get down the pub, really. And then outside of architecture, there are so many clubs and societies that you can join. So I joined the Mountaineering and Dance Society, and that was great fun. And you get to meet people outside of architecture as well, which is nice. But I highly recommend checking out everything on offer and keeping up some hobbies that you might already have. So I hope that's been useful for you. I think if you've got any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. So thank you for listening. And that's been my experience of architecture at Queen's.